Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Mac Story.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for stopping by the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast today. So today I want to talk to you about Bob. Now what you got to know right up front, if your name's Bob, this ain't nothing against you. I just had to pick a name. And in my book, Blue Collar Leadership and Teamwork, 30 Traits of High Impact Players, I introduced a fictional character there named Bob. But what I'm about to say, you may have heard it. People say it quite often. When they say it, they usually use the name Bob for whatever reason. So that's what I'm going to go with today when I talk to you about Bob. This is what you got to know. If Bob has a problem, everywhere Bob goes, Bob is the problem. So no matter what your name is, if you have a problem everywhere you go, that's right, you the problem. You might not want to admit it, but that ain't going to change what the truth is. So I want to just talk to you a little bit about what that means. I meet a lot of people all over the country and interact with people from all over the world, especially through LinkedIn. And again, I always like to remind you, if you're not following me on LinkedIn and you don't have a LinkedIn profile set up, you need to make it happen. Whether you follow me or not, you need a LinkedIn profile set up. But let's talk about Bob and Bob's problem. I ain't going to talk about you and your problem, although you may have the same problem Bob's got. You have to figure that one out. You know, I always say you can see more clearly out the window than you can when you look in the mirror. Mirror seems to always be fogged up a little bit. You can't quite really see what's in that mirror when you're looking at yourself. But, oh, man, look out the window at other people. Oh, you can see clear. It's like you got X-ray vision. You got telescopic vision. You can everything's magnified. You can see so good out the window at other people for what they're doing. But when you pull out that mirror, man, that thing's fogged up, cracked up. You can't see too good in it. So I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna help you look in it, but we're gonna talk about Bob. So if Bob has a problem, everywhere Bob goes, Bob is the problem. And again, I talk to people all over the place, and I see some people. They think they got it figured out, and you'll see them on social media blasting the world. They blasting people professionally. They blasting family members. They blasting political people. They just blast anybody. Or it may just be somebody. But there are people out there who think they got it figured out, and they are constantly sharing with the world their poor character. And they don't even know it. You know why? They got their head stuck out the window. That's why. They looking at the rest of the world and ain't looking in the mirror. That's what Bob does. Bob loves the window. He loves stick his head out the window where he can't even see the mirror on the wall. And I want to talk to you about Bob because you may have some similarities to Bob, and you might want a better life. You might want to get promoted. You might want to get a raise. You might want to stay married next time. Or you might want to stay married this time. Or you might want to grow and develop your relationship with your children. Let's talk about Bob and his problem at work. That's mainly what I really want to talk to you about. But it applies everywhere. And I see it a lot more, in the workplace. I don't go home with everybody and see how they deal with their family. Unless they're putting it out on social media, then it's pretty obvious who people are. And a lot of them do it. And they don't even understand. They're shooting themselves in the foot. So really, when it comes down to it, there's three things that Bob runs into, when he's the problem. He goes from one job to another job to another job to another job. And every time his friends hear this, and again, some people blast it all over social media, but they go from job to job to job, and everybody else is the problem. They can't get along with the people they work with. They can't get along with the boss. So if Bob has a problem everywhere Bob goes, Bob is the problem. So that could be for several reasons. Bob could be the problem because of his or her, or in this case, his character. Maybe when he goes from one place to the next place to the next place, he has a problem showing up on time. Or when he shows up, he don't really give it 100%. Or he may have a problem that he can't communicate and connect well with other people. And if Bob's always blaming other people for his problems, he ain't gonna ever get along good with other people. I'm just gonna tell you that. So when Bob, everywhere Bob goes, if Bob has a problem, Bob is the problem. But again, Bob don't know he's the problem because he thinks everybody else is the problem. So if he thinks everybody else is the problem, Bob's most likely gonna be blaming everybody else, which causes Bob to actually be the problem. You with me? And then the other thing is, it can't show up, meaning character wise, can't show up 100% for the job, whatever that means. It could mean a lot of things. Can't get along with others. That's another huge piece. And then can't follow well, meaning follow the boss well, because of course Bob thinks the boss is the problem. So that's another dynamic of Bob not being able to get along with people. But then there's another issue that causes Bob to be the problem everywhere Bob goes, is Bob's going to the wrong places. There could absolutely be something, not too great about the workplace or the culture where Bob goes to work. So you say, well, Bob's got a bad team. He's got a bad boss. He had it at the last place. He's got it at this place. And again, everywhere Bob goes, everywhere Bob has a problem, Bob is the problem. So then Bob goes to a new place. And if Bob has a problem at the new place, Bob is the problem. You see this common pattern. It doesn't matter where Bob goes, if there's a problem, Bob is the problem. So you say, why? Well, if he's going to places that's bad culture and a bad boss and bad people working there, how is that? Why is Bob the problem? Well, Bob decided to work there. That's why. Bob picked that place to go to work. They hired him. He said, okay. He went to work there. That's how Bob is the problem. If there's really a problem with the people and the boss and the culture in a company, and Bob's working there, why is Bob working there? That's why when Bob has a problem, Bob is the problem. Why is he working there? Why didn't he interview those people before he went to work there instead of just letting them interview him? I was speaking with someone recently, and I was talking about that, and I'm gonna tell you this: people with a high degree of character, they end up working they move. A lot of times they move from job to job to job because they get in there and they figure out the boss has got terrible character. So what do you do if you're Bob and you realize you're the problem? What do? You got to interview the interviewer. When you're getting interviewed for a job, you go, you answer their questions, you talk about whatever they want to talk about. You make sure you let them know about character, that sort of thing, that you value it, that you read leadership books and personal growth books and all that kind of stuff. And you try your best to live it and that sort of thing. And you want to be on a team with people who are like that. And you want to work with leaders who value their people and all this kind of stuff. And those leaders are going to tell you most often whatever it is you want to hear. They'll tell you how great the leaders are and how they treat the people well and blah, blah, blah. And they'll play the game. Just like people trying to get a job do the same exact thing. Yeah, I don't mind working weekends until you have to work a weekend. I don't mind working overtime until you have to work overtime. And then the boss will say, well, we work around here. We pretty much work 40 hours and we respect you got to have your family time until you come there and you got to work 60, 70 hours a week because the boss was trying to sugarcoat it. Everybody's trying to sugarcoat it if they ain't got a high degree of character. So I was telling this person I spoke to recently, How do you interview the interviewer quickly? How do you quickly find out if you value all the stuff that I talk about, if you value leadership development, high performance teams, you are a high impact individual, or you are a high impact leader and a high impact individual and a high impact team player. But normally when you get hired, you're hired in as a manager, formal authority leader in a leadership position. You're somebody's boss, that kind of stuff. And you want to report to a high impact leader with your values. Whenever you're being interviewed, two things you can do. And again, this is, if Bob has a problem, everywhere Bob goes, Bob is a problem. So what I'm about to tell you, two things that if Bob would do it, it could prevent him from going to work in the wrong places. But if Bob's needy, he's insecure, he ain't got any money put away, he got to have a job. A lot of times Bob's going to just take any job Bob can get, which put Bob in the wrong place, which again means Bob is the problem. He hasn't been managing himself or his life well. But what are the two things? This is anybody, anywhere, anytime you're being interviewed. Two things you can ask the interviewer, and you need it to be the person you're going to report to, not the HR person who's hiring you in. But you still can learn a little bit about the organization by talking to the HR person or whoever's interviewing you. But you really want to know, I need to talk to the person I'm going to report to before I come to work here. I ain't just going to get hired by somebody to report to somebody else. If you're doing that, you're going to be having a problem, and you're going to be the problem. If you get hired, if you just go through an interview and you interview with somebody who you're not going to report to, and you accept a job to report to somebody you ain't never met, well, guess what you're setting yourself up for? You're setting yourself up to be the problem in your life again. But these two things, let me get to them. I keep beating around the bush talking about other stuff. There's a lot to talk about with this. First thing I want to know the person who's interviewing me, what leadership or personal growth book are you reading now? And what's the last one you read? You throw that out to a boss who doesn't read leadership books, you'll see them, they'll start stumbling instantly. They may even say they don't read, they ain't readers. I ain't big on reading, stuff like that. If they are a reader, just like I know many of you who listen to me, you are readers, or you listen to podcasts or watch videos, maybe do all these things. But if you're an avid student of leadership, personal growth, leadership development, if somebody asks you that, you're going to start rattling off some stuff. So when you ask the person interviewing you, what leadership development, personal growth book are you reading? And what's the last one you read? What's the best one you've ever read? Those kind of questions. If they're into this stuff, they're going to have a quick answer. They may turn around and grab a book off a shelf and say, this is one I'm reading right now. Or reach down and pull it out of a briefcase or a backpack. So if they can give you a good solid answer, and you can trust them, and you can have a conversation with them about leadership development and personal growth, there's a good chance you're about to go work for a good leader. There may be bad leaders in the organization, but the one you're most concerned with is the one you're going to be reporting to. The other thing you can do, it'll almost stop them in their tracks, I guarantee you. And I highly recommend you to do this. Most of the time when you filling out application or trying to get a job somewhere, most of the time those companies, they may not contact them, but most of the time they want you to give some references. Some people in your life or have worked with or for, and they want, give me 3 names, 3 references that I can contact and talk to about you. There ain't nothing wrong with that. But guess what you can do? If you don't want to be Bob having a problem everywhere Bob goes, and one of those things is working for companies you don't want to work for, if you want to have the discipline to lead yourself well in the interview process, guess what you can say? Whether you're talking to the boss or you're talking to someone who's just hiring you in, let's just say it's the boss, though. You can say, before I accept this job, I'd like 3 references of 3 different people, who have reported to you in your career or are reporting to you currently. I'd like to talk to those people before I accept a job here. And if they don't want to give you 3 names of people who report to them now or have in the past, if you don't want to be Bob with a problem everywhere Bob goes, you need to respectfully decline their offer. But see, when you do that, you start separating yourself from the masses of people who come in and just take any job they can get because they're desperate. See, if Bob has a problem everywhere Bob goes, Bob is the problem. One of the problems that he has is he's desperate. Again, he's desperate for any job he can get because he probably lost the last job, or he got mad and he got fired from the last job without any notice, or he got mad and quit. Maybe didn't even give a notice. Remember, if Bob has a problem everywhere Bob goes, Bob is a problem. I'm going to say that throughout this whole episode because there's a lot of people, they don't get it. They don't understand. They are the problem. If you're having problems with your career, the people you work with, the places you work, especially if you're unhappy where you work, hello, you the problem. When you fix you solve your problem. You keep blaming everybody else. Well, if Bob got a problem everywhere Bob goes, Bob is the problem. In case you missed it the last 15 times I said it. I'm trying to help you. I ain't trying to hurt you. If you're still listening, you understand what I'm talking about. You got to clean off that mirror. If your mirror's all broke, cracked up, you can't see good in it, get you a new mirror. I've spoken to people about the mirror who later tell me, Mac, you talked about that mirror in one of your speeches I attended somewhere, and I went and bought a mirror and put it up on my wall in my office. So I could always have a clear picture of my problem. That's being proactive. That's good stuff. But I really want you to think about it. Think about interviewing the person who's interviewing you. You got just as much of a reason to interview them as they do you. If you care about working in a good place. If you just got to work wherever you get a job, it doesn't matter if you ask the question or not. You're going to still say, yeah, I'll take the job. But again, a lot of times Bob can't get the job he wants. He wants a job at a good company with good leaders, but he can't ever get it. They don't ever hire him at those good places. And you see, that's where we go back to the same thing I've been saying all along. If Bob has a problem everywhere Bob goes, Bob is the problem. If I can't get a good job with the good leaders, it's because I'm not qualified. I haven't developed myself. Could be that I go for the first interview and they say, "Oh, Bob looked like a pretty good candidate. Let's go stalk him on social media and look see what he likes and see what he talks about and see what he says." And then Bob talked a good game at the interview, but then I go on social media and check out Bob, see who Bob really is. And Bob's moaning, groaning, whining, complaining about all kind of stuff, all kind of people. No, I ain't hiring Bob. Bob can take his problem somewhere else. I don't need Bob's problem at my place. You see, there's a lot of employers who want to hire great people, but they ain't qualified to hire great people. Great people don't want to work there. And then there are people who want to work in great organizations, but great organizations have great people and great leaders. But a lot of the people who want to work there, they ain't qualified to work there, so they don't ever get to work there. In either case, Bob's got a problem and Bob don't know he's the problem. So I think I talked to you enough about that today. It was just something I was thinking about. I've had several conversations over the past few weeks with different people. And I went and looked at some of them social media, and I'm always I want to help anybody get better who wants to get better. But part of that means they need to know some truth. You may be one of those people. I may have never met you. I may have never talked to you. But what I want you to know as I wrap up this episode today, if Bob has a problem everywhere Bob goes, Bob is the problem. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mac Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mac's books, programs, special offers, certifications, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.